Dark Forest, thanks for coming back on the show, man. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Let's get stuck in. Mate, what do the markets look like to you at the moment? We've got a lot of excitement with BTC basically sitting pretty fucking close to all-time highs. I think a lot of people are very, very horny about all-time July. Macro setup either looks good or looks like the worst thing ever, depending on who you speak to, but I think that it looks all right. I'd love to hear your take. Well, what's the zoomed out dark outlook at the moment?
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me back on. I think the market has obviously changed. Like last time I was on, I think we were talking about this. Other people had started to talk about how you probably couldn't just sit around and wait for everything to go up. And so, we've seen this continuation of like Bitcoin separating itself from everything else, and then having to find the longer term holds, the things that you can hold in the alts sector. Like macro, I'm not a big macro guy. I think to get it out straight off the bat, like public service announcement, macro podcasts are for entertainment purposes only. I don't think you should pay them too much credence. And I say that because I got caught out by this. So February, I'm like, okay, markets are starting to sell off. Like, doesn't feel too good here. I'm going to take a step back, touch some grass. And I filled my time partially with listening to macro podcasts. So I was one of the gimps that was like, right, we've got this container ship recession is going to happen. Like, no boats coming from China. America's fucked. Orange man bad. Like all of this stuff. And kind of psyched myself out a little bit and sort of missed the run back up slightly because of that. And so, yeah, that burnt me a little bit. It's the first time it's happened. And I just thought, like, why did I get so wrapped up in that? So I think there's a certain amount of attention that you can pay to that stuff. You can try and, once you've learned it, you can sort of see how the waves go up and down, rates rising, rates lowering, prediction of rates rising, rates lowering. But really, if you get like proper sucked into it and become a doomer, obviously it's no good. So always be optimistic, I would say. And actually was listening to your previous guest, was it Pav Hundal? I thought he was really good. Like he had a good macro take, as in he didn't just repeat the same things that everybody else says. He'd gone and looked at the data himself and had actually come out saying, yeah, this isn't as bad as everybody's making out. So I think as long as you take your sources from like a number of different places and don't get caught in a doom loop, you're all right. So yeah, I think, I'm like cautiously optimistic as ever. BTC has not sold off in drastic fashion as we're used to sort of waiting around and seeing. Kobe was probably right, as he always is. Like we're gonna stick in this region for a bit, and if we break 110, it's like game on. So yeah, broadly, I'm happy. I think you just got to pick and choose your alts. Maybe we can talk about that in more detail at some point. But yeah, broadly, I think things look all right.
Yeah, Pav was good because he actually broke down some stuff that wasn't just, oh yeah, rates and M2, which was good. Went to like SLRs and like finer grain detail. I think there's a good quote for the economic side of things of like the school of, or the field of economics is great for employing economists. And that's basically it. But yeah, it's been a while since the last time we spoke. And I think, last time would have been
just over a year ago.
It was more than, it was just over a year ago. So it would have been this time in 2024. So when, memes were still heating up, there was still a lot of degeneracy happening. We had a couple months left on that run. I probably would have been very obnoxious and euphoric about my choices of dog shit memes and being like, yep, sweet, we're built different. And now I'm kind of bathing in the afterglow of that. Some ways good, some ways bad. There have been a lot of nice lessons about not bag holding or marrying meme coins for too long for me on that side. But yeah, it has been funny to observe Bitcoin go up and basically just move into its own economy is probably a terrible word for it, but it's its own entity now that is separate from everything else. And I did read a really good article today from Evan on, I think it was called like the sunk cage fallacy of being stuck in alts and being like, well, we've got previous all-time highs on these, so surely if we have, Bitcoin leading, then all these other things are going to come back up as well. And it looks like that may not be the case for a lot of things. So, yeah, what you were saying before about, picking alts that you can hold for a long period of time, what are some of those ones that tick boxes for you? Are there any in the current market that you look at and think, yeah, cool, we can hold this for a long time?
Yeah, I think most people have communicated, like if you're on crypto Twitter, you've probably seen the list of the usual suspects right now, which are Hyperliquid, Syrup, Pendle, Maker, Aave, like some of the DeFi stuff. So I probably don't need to go into the individual names. I think most people will recognize those. I guess our job is to figure out why they were popular and to find the next lot. I think some of them have still not sort of broken out in the same way as others. So, for example, Hype is, it's very well covered. There's a lot of, whether it's just degenerate tweeting about it or people like James Wynn doing, these crazy things on it. Yeah, a bit of free marketing for the team, or deep dive analyst research. That's all out there. Stuff like Aave, I feel Aave is more mentioned and there isn't as much depth to it. And so some of them are still sort of flying under the radar, or maybe it's just representative of people not being as sure. Like for me, Aave, if I went into that one specifically, like I do have a bag that I picked up in the like low 100 region on the basis of, like, the retarded take was, what if this is like Amazon after the dot-com bubble, where because it sort of held its TVL, but the token price sold right off. And if it becomes this huge compounder where, because they've got all of this TVL and it's sticky and it keeps growing, maybe they launch more products, there's stuff that can be built on top of it, then suddenly 10 years later, you're looking at like a 10, 12x maybe on it. And it's like, oh, actually, if I'd have just held that and it compounded, because you can stake it as well. That's something that you can hold on to. And that goes to the point in your first question, which is you could see that the market was changing and you couldn't afford to just sit around in stuff waiting for it to pump, just off the back of, liquidity flowing in. You had to pick and choose and sort of come up with an idea for certain things. So I guess the common thread between all of these things is obviously fundamentals. And each one will do a different thing, like to reflect those. Hype, you've obviously got the 97% buyback of their revenue goes back into the Hype token. With Aave, it's a little bit different. They're spending most of their income on the DAO, and now they've got a buyback in place as well. So yeah, I think you're looking for, you've got to have that fundamental cash flow. Then it's pick and choose, like what do you like in terms of token design, if there even is one. Maybe there's one forthcoming. And these are the things that you want to be looking for right now whilst we're in the revenue meta. But I think it will last. I think that it's not going to be a passing phase. I think that is, we're seeing the market mature and become more like TradFi. And is it interesting? I did start reading that Evan SS article. I didn't get to the end of it, but are you saying the conclusion was that he was sort of denigrating alts rather than, because I got like halfway through and I thought he was talking about crypto as a whole. Because I wanted to say, if that came up, I wanted to say, I don't think I agree with that. Like, I'm not quite as doomer as him, but if he went on to say that it was about alts, then yeah, maybe I agree.
I don't think he was necessarily denigrating alts. The conclusion was essentially that, like, looking at whether or not it was like the crossover of believing in Bitcoin and then believing in crypto and then kind of believing in, okay, so like believing in crypto, but not in fiat debasement, and then believing in like fiat debasement, but not necessarily crypto, and then kind of like the middle diagram. It was what your point before around like just sitting in stuff and waiting for the pump while Bitcoin dominance increases and kind of just hoping that you'll have some kind of liquidity flow and being like, well, if Bitcoin goes up, it'll like BTCD will top, and then we'll eventually have liquidity flow back in. And I think that was a broad theme of it. Like that's no longer, you're in a sunk cage. Like you're not coming back up to the surface. There's no air that's going to come in and bring you to plop back up to the top. Like figure out what your sunk cage is. But yeah, I think it was a nice mix of like optimism and doomerism in there overall. Speaking of optimism and doomerism, we had a brief period recently of everyone really flipping out about tokenized stocks on chain again, of like Robinhood chain coming in. A lot of ETH maxis were kind of furiously masturbating over the fact that it was built on Arbitrum, woohoo! And then we had the Arbitrum token, I think, did 6% on the day, and then has done borderline nothing since. I think it's actually down since that point. And then clearly the bid there was to, I'll bring up Arb. Yeah, wonderful. Christ, that's a horrible looking chart. Yeah, ran to 35 cents, and now we are down 8% from Robinhood chain announcement. But funnily enough, the bid was to buy Robinhood, not to buy the crypto primitive that it's built on. And I think that's another sticking point for the market at the moment, that the alpha is in the equities. It was the same thing with the Circle IPO. Of everyone on CT was kind of clowning the fact that it was launching at a high valuation and then it did a fucking 10x from IPO. So it's like the alpha is that the equities sitting on top of the crypto primitives are the thing to be bid. So we've had an alt season, but it's in equities. is my takeaway from people being like, alt season, and it's like, yeah, dude, it's not coming on chain. It's TradFi buying the stuff not on chain. How did you view the Robinhood meta?
When I see people talking about it, it always comes across as like being quite despondent, or it's happening over there. People are just, we're at our crypto yacht party. It's just blokes. We're out at sea, and we're all looking back to the shore, and that's where all the, the good stuff's happening. And we're like, oh, it's in TradFi now. But I'm actually pretty positive about this, because I think if you've been in crypto, either this cycle or the previous cycle, you're really well set up to play this same game, because it's not being played on fundamentals. Exactly what you said with Circle, we're all sitting there going, well, it's overvalued at 4 or 5 billion, whatever the launch IPO was. And then it's done a 10x since then. So our entire existence in crypto has been, counter to what I've just said, has been chasing narratives, like spotting narratives and getting into the tokens early. Now, that is still going to exist, but you see some of that is now bleeding over to TradFi. And so whereas before crypto was like 100% degeneracy and TradFi was 100% fundamentals, since COVID, it's like since 2020, 21, with the rise of like the GameStop squeeze really started it all. Then you've got AMC, got like Shkreli pumping like low cap stocks, and crypto is starting to bleed across to that. So now what you've got is you've got Palantir, Nvidia, Tesla, even again back to 21, you had the Nikola trucks stock. There's all sorts of stuff that you can spot that has the same hallmarks that you would look for in a token that's going to pump. Somebody that's cheerleading it, somebody that's got reach, like is a bit of a character. Think of Luna and Do Kwon. So Luna ended in tragedy, but the point is that if you can spot these people and these narratives, then it doesn't matter if it's happening in crypto or TradFi. Yeah, you might have to open like a brokerage account and go through all the friction of that. But if you can see it happening, then you don't want to miss it, right? So this is, well, I guess it's actually going to be made easier. We're kind of getting it handed to us on a plate with stuff like Robinhood coming on chain. The X stocks thing that's launched. Kraken now has stocks on chain. They're accessible. And that means that we can use the skills that we've learned over the last few years to try and find these things early and run them up. So while crypto is starting to mature, whether it's crypto or TradFi, there's that level of latent degeneracy that's there, which means there's always going to be these runners that you can find. And as I say, I think our skill set is set up to do that. So basically, get yourself ready to trade stuff in TradFi markets, however that is, suitable for you. And then that's it. Away you go. Find the right people talking about these things. Figure out your own process for it. And I think we're going to have the same sort of things play out.
Are there any other metas that you have your eye on at the moment? Because I know that you I know that you've been touching grass a bit recently, which has probably been a good move, to be honest. There hasn't really been that much in the way of quote-unquote generational runners to be had, or it's been a very difficult market to play. But is there anything outside of the current telegraphed, CT metas that you witness that you look at and think okay, that could be something, or this is an idea or a concept that's being slept on more broadly?
I mean, I've noticed that AI has gone a bit quiet recently. So I'm keeping an ear out for things changing there. I think the agents meta within AI didn't really have a proper run. Yeah. Sorry, is that bringing back bad memories for you?
Yeah, I'm just getting actual fucking PTSD flashbacks from that. But yes, continue.
Yeah, I think you've just got to respond to whatever the real companies do and then look for the reflection in crypto. As I say, agents were talked about, OpenAI have their, they did launch something where you can sort of specify, not an agent, but like a very detailed GPT for specific use cases, but it didn't really translate. I had quite high hopes for Wayfinder. I think last time I was on, I talked about it. It hasn't really translated. I think the progress is quite slow. This Wayfinder is an on-chain transaction agent, and it just never really came to fruition. So I think you just got to keep an eye on AI, like OpenAI, Anthropic, whatever the big guys are doing. See what they're pushing next, and then look for that same thing in crypto. That's about it, really. I don't, I think other than fundamentals, you've got to let the market tell you. I'm not a tastemaker. I'm not Ansem, not somebody that's gonna be able to create these things from scratch. So I prefer to wait and see what the zeitgeist is saying, and then react from there, really.
Yeah. If I could imagine anyone further from Ansem, it would probably be you, Doug. Yeah, the AI crypto Venn diagram is something that it feels like one of those things that just makes a lot of sense, like confluence-wise, of two tech sectors that should be married up, that there should be some projects that have better cross-functionality between the two, and AI agents. And I remember seeing the Doom posters, and I remember believing them fully and being like, yeah, this is clearly dog shit, but also the price is leading the narrative here of well, if AI 16Z is worth $2 billion, who am I to question whether or not this is the next best thing? And so in that kind of run up, I definitely got kind of carried away with the valuation over the actual utility of these things. Because remember, there were just these agents that were pure dog shit coming out and being like, yes, I'm an agent that's going to do this. And it was just reply guy slop everywhere on the timeline. Like, we still have it. It's still there, but people have just tuned out to it. But yeah, that was disconcerting. And there were lots of people that were highly skeptical of it that were, very right to do so, because there was just no real utility apart from a thing that the questions of like, is AIXBT just a guy in a room being like, yep, looks good here, definitely bid that. And then over time, it kind of like would schizo out when people asked it different things. It'd be like, oh yeah, this looks great. And then in a tweet 7 minutes later, it would be like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. So it was like, okay, this does not have like intelligence. This is not confluence. It's just scraping something and spitting out an answer depending on what it gets on that individual kind of like API read or whatever it's doing in its back end. So yeah, no, AI agents were not it, but I do think that there's going to be a new AI meta where there's going to be some kind of actual cross functionality between these two things that makes a lot of sense, and hopefully we'll be positioned for it. Probably not. I'll probably buy it early and then sell it because I don't get it and then have to rebuy later. So another classic crypto journo fumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. No, it's been really interesting market to be involved in. And you mentioned Syrup before. And that was something that launched at a pretty decent valuation and then ran down to 7 mil market cap and now pumped back up to 700 million market cap. I haven't done too much research into Syrup or like Maple Finance as a whole. Have you looked into that at all from like a research perspective at all?
Not recently, no. So I definitely missed that one. I had that written off from what happened to them previously, which was, I think they gave loans to a business in, I want to say Africa somewhere, that was renting out scooters, and the company behind it just ran off with the money. But I think they've moved more to a over collateralized model now, which prevents that kind of thing from happening. But yeah, definitely didn't see that, and that's my miss for writing them off for something that happened many years ago, and they've obviously pivoted, and I missed that. But that's about the extent of my knowledge on Syrup.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, because I know that like Maple Finance, they're an Australian team. Because I remember I went to go use Maple Finance just to deposit some USDC, play around with it. They had a campaign where it was like, if you deposit more than $1,000, there's a 300K prize and like secondary prizes. And I was like, ROI on this is good. I wanted to farm some Syrup anyway. I will go do that. But I was geo-blocked from the website in Australia. And I was like, I've never been geo-blocked.
Wow.
And
Betrayal.
Then I know. I was like, I don't get geo-blocked. That's for US people. Come on. And sanctioned countries. What's going on here? And then it turns out I was speaking with some people and they were like, yeah, they just didn't want to deal with, as an Australian team, they did not want to deal with Australian regulators. And I was like, that's a good play, because Australian regs they follow the US, but they're notoriously nitpicky with crypto projects that are launched in Australia. So GG's Maple Finance. I'm using a Brazil VPN to access it. Getting myself in trouble by recording this and putting this on the internet.
You can edit that out afterwards.
I will edit this out. This is not going on the show. But yeah, man, Hyperliquid was probably another one that was the one token that you did not want to sell the airdrop of in recent memory. How do you... I know this has been talked about like on other podcasts and endlessly on crypto Twitter, but I am interested in your understanding of why Hyperliquid went so well, where you think it can head, because we've got now competition risk coming in from Robinhood, Coinbase. If you kind of, this is a base 16Z kind of quote, but it's like if you read between the lines, you hardly have to do that. It does look like that perpetual trading will become legal in the United States, and it will be a lot more opened up for the retail market. And then you actually have degens on Robinhood, Coinbase, trading perps. Do you think that they have to be worried about their lunch money being taken, or do you think that they just keep expanding kind of the black hole of their liquidity on chain? and just keep corralling people into the Hyperliquid ecosystem?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they need a more retail-friendly front end for the next leg of the expansion. My understanding as to why they've been so successful thus far is because they built for the people who provide liquidity, the market makers. Because those guys come from like HFT, high frequency trading, Jeff and the team. So they have a deep understanding of what they want to see, like low fees. They've prioritized cancels. Like, I'm not a market maker, but these are the things that I see that have gone down well. And so the liquidity was always there. You've got things like, huge leverage. It's scaled depending on the asset, but anywhere up to I think 25x on Hyperliquid. I'm not sure how many people actually go all that way up the slider bar. Tom, maybe you're guilty of that. I'm not sure. But
nope.
No, just a trench guy, straightforward
just
trench
a trench guy.
So I don't think there's too much to be had on that side of things, but you can see from 0 day to expiry options, Robinhood, etc. There's a latent demand from retail to like hypergamble effectively, and Hyperliquid. Currently, it's like desktop app mainly. If they can simplify that and get that into people's hands, I think that's what could take them on the next leg. Even without that, it's a case of, have you heard people say, there was a period where you could invest in stocks that you used every day, things like Apple, things like,
if you use it, buy it.
Yeah, and that led you to sort of the Mag 7, and then other stocks that have performed well at certain times. Peloton was an easy one during COVID, that sort of thing. Hyperliquid for me is a case of that. It leans back on the fundamentals discussion we were having earlier, but there are these things in crypto now that even if you're not using them, it's pretty obvious that people are. And it's not the case that you can just scoff at it and cope from the sidelines and say, well, it's all going to collapse. Like some people kept saying that, after farming it will collapse, blah, blah, blah. And every day you're watching open interest climb, volume climb, and therefore the revenue climb. And at some point you have to say, fuck yeah, people are using this. I need to figure out why. And go and use it yourself, and unless you're a US citizen, go and figure it out. And for me, that's what happened with Hyperliquid. Like, I was just using it for a bit of perps trading. I'm not a massive perps trader, but I actually really enjoyed using it. And then when the Hyper EVM came out, I put a bit of money over there, and it's useful. You can I can now take a loan against my Hype and then put it back into the exchange, and it just works. And you can just tell the quality of it by using it. And I think that it's a very simple thesis, but there are starting to be these protocols in crypto that if you use them, it's worth, they can be worth investing in.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that's something that gets missed in crypto, of like trying to find the thing that no one's using so you can buy it at a super low valuation and get the next like 1000x and be in before everyone else does. But there's a very simple way of, dumbing it down and just being like, hey, is everyone using this? Is there a good chance that everyone will continue using this? And if the answers to those questions are yes, then it's like, fuck, okay, I should probably check this out. Especially when you have a protocol like Hyperliquid that I don't know who is trading on things like DYDX or GMX anymore. And it is that like liquidity black hole of like, once everyone goes there, that's where all the liquidity is. So that's where people will continue to go, especially if they want to do trades with big size, because you just won't be able to get that kind of execution on other platforms as a result. Speaking of giant liquidity events, we've got a pump.fun token coming. I think it's going to TGE around about $4 billion valuation. What are your thoughts on the pump.fun token, Dark? How do you see that playing out in the market? I saw Anson put out a tweet of like, do we bid it? Do we sell it? What do we do?
Yep, it's going to be interesting. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I've been interested to get your thoughts on it actually once I've responded, because you're as we said, a trench guy. So you've used this product a lot. so you probably know it a lot better than I do. From the outside looking in, it is attractive, I think, even at 4 bill. But it's going to be very cyclical. Like, we were talking before the pod about how December, January was very painful if you were a meme coin trencher. These periods, they come and go. In my personal opinion, if they had launched or if they had TGE'd, let's say 400 mil at 2 bill, the thing would have flown. Like if you think about Ferrari, I'm pretty sure it was Enzo himself who said they always build one less car than they need. And then you induce that demand. There's always somebody who's going to pay whatever it takes to get an allocation. 1 bill at 4, I've seen people try and justify that they need $1 billion to scale, but it's a fucking software app. Like they've already taken 600 million in revenue. What on earth are you? How many developers can you buy for $1 billion, and what are you expanding into? So yeah, I mean, I don't know the team very well, but I would say that is way over egging it. And if they wanted to see imagine Hyperliquid again, it sort of launched at around $2, I think, and it flew because it was, in my opinion, it was only slightly undervalued. I thought 6 to 8 was my region, but you only have to put it slightly below where the market thinks, and it will, off it goes. So yeah, I would have done probably 400 at 2 bill, but I think at 4 bill it can still have legs. Yeah, what do you think?
I see it as one of those giant, I think for on-chain, it's going to be one of those giant fucking liquidity black hole events where I think that people will relentlessly bid it simply because it is the pump.fun token. It also depends on the TGE event itself. It depends on how it's airdropped to users, if it is airdropped to users in a meaningful capacity as well, and what kind of sell pressure you have from, trenches. Is this going to be the thing that, quote unquote, saves the trenches? I remember seeing a Trader Axe tweet that just fucking got me. I was I haven't laughed at a tweet like that in a very long time, but it was he's yeah, pump.fun are going to do an airdrop and it's going to account for all my losses. And it was just Woody from Toy Story going bah, kissing himself laughing. And I was it was so good. But yeah, I don't know. My instinct tells me that it is going to be something that runs quickly on day one. I think it is very attractive as the premier launchpad, but I do think that Bonk Fun, Bonk's launchpad, is probably, if you can gain exposure to the Bonk launchpad eco, is probably a good bid right about now. But yeah, in terms of how the pump.fun token at 4 bill feels too much. I think that because Hyperliquid is 13 billion market cap now.
Circulating, but
circulating.
FDV is 30 something.
It's do we? I really do think that I'm going to go with yes. I think that pump.fun is a bid on day one, but you will have to be cautious of where you think you want to pull that out. Because if we think about it, it's what you've said before of okay, what the protocol itself does pretty solid revenue, but let's think about the size and scale of it and what it needs that money for in the long term. And again, it really depends how much money comes out to community and the sell pressure that you get. Because I mean, pump.fun traders, Solana's the Jeet chain for a reason, man. Do you really think that people are going to look at this and be oh, fuck yeah, I want to hold my pump.fun token? Unless they can come up with an incentive where it really actually repays users that did burn a lot of money through the platform itself. And the other thing is also how it actually prioritizes volume that came on and left the platform. Because it's I would buy the tokens through the pump.fun terminal. And there were a couple of ones in the early days. I remember I got one that copped an Elon tweet and I bought it pre-bond. And I remember I was in the shopping center and I just had messages from group chats being like, Tom, do you still have this coin? And I opened my Phantom and was like, holy shit, I have to sell this immediately. But then I'm not clipping it out through the pump.fun terminal. So that massive volume event from that is being done on Dupe. Like I'm getting rid of it elsewhere. I wasn't on the pump.fun dashboard for that. So I think that's another thing of like people really will overestimate how much volume they've put through the protocol itself, because they probably bought it there and then they've had their volume exit event on Dupe or somewhere else. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to it that I think could fuck with a lot of people. And I think that the piss take of like, oh, the pump.fun airdrop's going to save my balance. It's like, probably not, man. It's probably not. But
yeah, you're sort of focused on partly on the airdrop, and then also like what can they build that captures the rest of the revenue that's available. And I think if you're thinking about entering on day one, like $1 billion does seem like a lot to raise for something like this. People point at plasma, but plasma, you don't have to, they got to $1 billion easily, but you don't have to convert to buy the plasma token. It just gives you the allocation. So we'll see if that actually converts. But what you can do is watch it. Like, I don't imagine $1 billion will fill in anything under like 5 or 10 minutes. So you will have time to see what the demand looks like. And I guess you can gauge it off of that. Because if it falls flat, if they only, let's say they raise 600, 700 mil, then a lot of people are going to be thinking, shit, I shouldn't have committed to this, and are probably going to want to get out. Then you add in what you said about the airdrop. You've got to take that into account. If that's given as a liquid token, if there's 10% supply on day one, that's going to have an effect as well. So I think the way to play it would be to try and keep an eye on whatever that TGE contract is, see how quickly it's filling up, and whether they can fill the $1 billion. And then go from there. Because if you value it, if you were to be a little bit risque and say, 600 mil annualized revenue, then $4 billion is definitely cheap. But as we said, it's really cyclical revenue, so you can't really project it that way. So I reckon it will be, depends on like what the state of the market is at the time, is whether people are going to be feeling risk on or risk off, and that's going to have some impact as well.
And it does, like if we actually look at pump.fun revenues, like the Adam Tech guy has really good dashboards on this on Dune. If anyone wants to go have like a very good, concise look at pump.fun eco, like revenues have been dropping for like the last 2 months. Like people just aren't shitcoining as much anymore because it's a dying meta. But I will say this, the pump.fun streaming side of things is something that I feel like is a way that they could capture revenue in future and keep people coming back to the platform in a way that's like sticky longer term, of people are already on pump.fun to watch Gainsey. It's very CT focused. And I'm not sure if you could have real uptick in consumer market. Like if you look at the number of live streams that are on there at the moment, it's not an attractive product. It's not a Twitch or a Kick. But I do think it's an underrated mechanism for now for user retention and bringing people back. And so like once people are on the pump.fun stream for Gainsey, they'll be like, oh, a cheeky gamble, never hurt anyone. And so you're getting people that are coming for the stream and then they're staying to do a wee bit of shitcoining. And so I think it depends on how they reward creators longer term there. I'm thinking of actually spinning up a pump.fun stream just for shits and giggles, just to see what happens and like see what the platform is actually like. Overall, I'm so on the fence, man. I'm 50-50. I will have to look at it on the day. But I do think that, $1 billion circulating on the day, that's still cheap for what that business model is. It's been the most successful, I mean, except for Hyperliquid, of the last 2 years that's launched in crypto. So,
yeah.
But I'm not confident that that can continue, because it is just kind of like a euthanasia roller coaster for people that use it for too long. It's just keep going. And then you also have tax events as well. So for that kind of purpose, things like Luck.io almost make better sense from a tax perspective, as an Australian anyway, because gambling wins aren't taxed. So you probably actually have better odds going on to Luck.io and hitting, but there's a certain sense of shame that comes with playing slots or gambling. Like digital slots, dude, that's a low point. I did it because Anson was talking about how, if you've been active on chain, you can go onto Luck.io and there'll be an airdrop. You just have to like do some shit on it. So I was like, okay, so I put a couple Sol on and was just like slamming some digital slots, and I was like, fuck, this is not good. This is such a shameful behavior. This is far worse than pump.fun.
Okay, there's no shame buying the fifth like derivative of come in dog emu or whatever it is, but hitting the digital slot button is a step too far.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my final position on this. Digital slots, shameful. Reconsider your life. Buying fucking the 8th derivative of whiff, go for gold. You're a good little shitcoiner. Keep it going. But yeah, man. So that's going to be interesting. I'll be keen to see when they TGE. I'm not counting on the token to save anything for anyone that thinks that they're getting an airdrop. But yeah, moving on from pump.fun. What's some other shit that's occurring in the market at the moment that could be something?
Something that I'm looking forward to coming on to Hyperliquid is Volmex. So Volmex have got Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana volatility indexes or indices.
How's that spelled? Volmex or
Volmex?
Volmex.
And these things are currently tradable on Bitfinex, and they've recently launched on Gains Network, on Arbitrum, and maybe one other venue. But the point is that I think if they go to where people are, which is Hyperliquid, there's going to be decent volume on these things. And for anybody that's come across the VIX in TradFi, the volatility index, this is just a crypto version of that. So my understanding is last time I looked, they used Deribit and OKX options to determine the implied volatility for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. And so then you can trade those things. So what that allows you to do, it's just another way to hedge, really. Options are not very widespread in crypto. There's probably like more, or there's probably fewer strikes to buy at actually than there are people trading these things. We've got perps already, but if you can have a perp product that allows you to go long volatility, then you can effectively be hedged if everything goes to shit. For me, like, this is quite exciting. This is the kind of thing that on the portfolio side, I really nerd out about. Like, I want to have 5% long BVIV or EVIV. And so then if Bitcoin shits the bed overnight, that thing goes up, and I've sort of hedged out I haven't had to directionally short a particular asset. I'm just short like the volatility. I mean, Bitcoin sort of represents the whole space, so you can just go long the volatility of that, basically, to represent that. So yeah, I think it'd be quite cool to build a portfolio with a little bit of this in it, just to see how it performs, because crypto is so volatile as well. So it should be worthwhile.
Yeah, okay. Volmex. Literally, man, I haven't used Bitfinex in a very long time.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time coming. I worked at Index Co-op before. We talked to Cole, who's the founder, many years ago about them using the infrastructure that we were using to launch these products, but it never really came to fruition. They've gone their own way, and yeah, through years and years of building, they're finally sort of starting to roll these things out to where people are trading, and it all sort of comes together. So it's quite exciting to see it, and yeah, not many people are talking about it. So yeah, that's something I'm looking at.
Okay, so the Volmex like assets themselves, like they're just tradable assets, and they exist in the form of perps. Like I'm seeing like BVIV as a perp, but it is an index of volatility on like Bitcoin.
Yeah, so exactly. Same as the VIX in TradFi. It's basically saying how jittery are people, and what, because they're using options pricing to determine like what people think is going to happen. And so when everything's calm, these volatility indices start to reduce in price. And when things get heated up, normally to the downside, they increase in price. So that's why it acts as a hedge.
How do you feel about memes now? I know that you're not a huge meme guy, and that's probably a good call. But looking at, it's good for a while until
speaking from experience,
the exact day that it isn't. It's like the life of a turkey. It's like everything's great, and then the life of a Thanksgiving turkey is the little risk trope there. But you have like your blue chip. Fuck, that's something to say. You have your blue chip meme coins. Come on, fuck, man, that's a dedicated bag holder statement right there. But you have your big ones that are basically just like leveraged beta to the underlying of like whatever chain they're on. Of like if you want to be long Sol, you can up your exposure by longing Filecoin instead, and if you want to be long ETH, you can just sit in a bag of MOG or Pepe or something like that. How do you feel about memes moving forward for like the big ones? Do you think that we do just see this like continued, like what I've just said before, of they're the leveraged beta to the underlying, or do you think that people start to lose interest in these things as time moves on, just because there's so much attention risk of something else can come up and replace it? And what do you think about that?
I think across the board you're getting dilution. So whether it's more tokens that are existing, more places to trade them, and with like Robinhood coming in and these new offerings of different technology that can give you the same outcome. You can see, mentioned it earlier, like 0 day to expiry options, 25x long perpetual. Like there is a certain person out there who likes to do that. I don't know how long they can do it for before they're zeroed out. Memes to me reflect the same sort of demand, which is, I want to buy a lottery ticket, and I want to feel that adrenaline and try and make it out of this quagmire of like bullshit that is the modern day like economy. And the problem is, like you said, you've got your blue chips, the names that people know. Are they going to keep having the runs that we've seen in the past? Well, if you look at where like Sheeb got and Doge got in the previous cycle to this one, obviously it's dropped off massively. So you're already starting to see this dilution. Like people know what the game is already. The pumps are lower, the pumps are shorter. There's more to choose from, and there's more options to choose from, whether that is options or perpetuals or like meme coin trenching. So longer term, unless something like pump.fun can sort of concentrate all of this firepower and people's attention into one place, I just think that it gets diluted over time. But I don't think that degeneracy and that like willingness and want to gamble goes away. So I would never write them off, but you just have to watch for, because what you want to see is that concentration of attention in a short span of time. So you've got to be like very nimble. And we were talking about it just before the pod. I think memes are now easily the hardest thing, like right now, easily the hardest thing that you could be trying to trade, because you have to be early, you have to know the right tools to use, you have to be able to like assess the zeitgeist and know what's going to be mimetic and viral and what's not, and then you have to have a plan for like getting out of it without, you've got to minimize regret on something that could easily run to like 600 million or a billion FDV. How the hell do you hold on to that, to those like lofty heights, when you know the game that you're playing, unless you're new to it? So you've got to be somebody who's willing to hold through that and then switch on a dime and get out like at a good valuation as well. So across all of the facets that you can imagine of like being a good trader, you have to be at the peak of every single one for memes right now. But there are these periods where that's not true, where you just have to put money at work in that sector and you'll do okay. But I just think that's getting further and further away now as we go through time.
Yep. And this is the thing. I think that it's the same thing as waiting for like Bitcoin dominance to top and the liquidity to come back in and everything just runs. And I think that people are still operating on that model with memes as well of like, oh, but like Dogecoin went to, how many billion did Dogecoin go to? I always get this wrong, but it was freakishly
was it
high.
80? Or is that
Yeah,
Shiba? I
it's
can't
like,
remember. One of them went to
I
80.
think Doge was the big one, and I think 80 bill was where it pushed to, yeah. And you have this, with degens, there's almost this, and I mean, like, I'm guilty of it as well, so I'm not trying to shit on anyone in particular, but there's this, like, anchoring of, like, well, Doge went this high, therefore, I can assume that, you know, Fartcoin can get to, you know, 10, 15, 20% of Doge, and that's a return there. We just need enough retarded retail normies to come in and bid my bag so I can dump into them. But I think that people are wise to the game now of like, they're less willing to just ape into, and again, like it could be wrong. It's something that could occur again of like, you just actually have a FOMO event where Fartcoin or Pepe or whatever big meme you choose or think will run does run to the point where people go, oh, holy fuck, I have to buy this thing. Oh my goodness. And that's where you get your freakish blow off top. But I'm just not sure that that's going to happen this time around. I think that, again, there is just that dilution of attention of like Doge worked because it was the only one. Really. There was SHIB, but like Doge was it. Like that was the only dumb, funny coin that you could buy. And now there is just an infinite number of communities centered around meme coins that are all like really competing for attention. And obviously you have your winners and your leaders like Fartcoin on Sol, Pepe Mog on ETH, but yeah, trying to assume and extrapolate that we're going to get the same parabolic run that we had in COVID for memes all over again, and it will go to 80 billion again because Doge did. It's like, it does feel like that was a once in a lifetime event, and you're anchoring your expectations to something that's probably not going to happen again, or even remotely to that order of magnitude. So yeah, past performance does not guarantee future results. In that sense, but it's a constant anchor of like, I see it in degen chats all the time of like, but dude, Doge went that high, like global liquidity, interest rates coming down, it'll just happen again. It's like, but that's the thing with memes is it's like it's largely based on there are no fundamentals you can point to as to why people will buy it. It will just have to be a FOMO run that you would not believe. Like it would just have to be retail coming back in and being like, oh, that's it. Yep, yeah. And the other thing with the COVID event was crypto is new to a lot of people at that time. It didn't have the same reputation that it does now. You have people, a huge cohort of people that are never going to buy cryptocurrency. And I'm not trying to be bearish. Like I think there are a lot of people that could be, but okay, so hear me out. There's a lot of people that are never going to buy crypto ever. We can just write them off as a result of what happened in prior cycles where people got scammed, people got burned. But then again, I think there's a lot of people that didn't have any opinion of crypto, that were never going to shitcoin, that are normal, regular investors. And they are probably going to come into the market this time because you have the rubber stamping from Larry Fink, Robinhood, Coinbase, internationally. Those people are not buying Fartcoin. They're not buying meme coins. They're going to buy Bitcoin. And they're going to forget that they own it. And they're just going to park it in a portfolio. So yeah, I do just think it's going to be BTC-led cycle with less and less opportunity for freakish upside on speculative dog shit.
If you think about, Robinhood coming into the game, I think there's that, if you think about concentric circles of people that are involved in crypto with the very diehards who are here early at the center, there's a circle towards the outside that we haven't really touched, and you just identified as people that maybe either got slightly burnt or knew someone that got burnt or watched it happen and don't want to touch it. But I think the stuff that's coming these days, where we're going to offer stable coins to people, the kind of apps that are doing this and offering like stocks on chain through Robinhood, that sort of thing, you think that they're not going to have a little button in there that says like swap as well as set. So if you've got somebody there with $2,000 in a stable coin because they're trying to avoid inflation in their country, and that same app they're one click away from swapping that into a meme coin, I think we onboard these people that would never have made it here under their own steam, but when it comes to them in a frictionless way, they will arrive. So that's why I'd never write it off. But I think I totally agree with what you're saying about if you try to imagine what event could possibly cause the kind of hysteria that we had in 2021, it's kind of fun and scary to think about at the same time. Because I do think we probably see it at some point in our lifetimes, but I think it would have to be something in the order of magnitude of like the collapse of faith in the US, the US dollar, basically. It's going to be, because each time it gets bigger, right? The dot-com bubble was just speculators getting blown up, fine. Financial crisis was, okay, we've levered everything up to get yield to achieve our 7% benchmark. COVID was like, okay, if we don't print 25% of all dollars that have ever existed in this 18-month period, everything's going to collapse again. And each time the package gets bigger. And what could the problem is once you start doing this, you get to a point where even printing more doesn't help you, because you've gone like over the top of the hill now. And it's like, if you print more, well, people are wise to what happens when you print, which is the dollar devalues. And so you actually just make it far, far worse. So if we see that in like 10 years time, then the numbers that we would get on meme coins are just going to be like what would seem like astronomical today, but it's because the value of the denominator has gone to zero.
I just need to hold my Fartcoin bag until the United States collapses in the next decade. Thanks, Dark. That's the advice I'm taking from this episode.
What a
and
thesis.
That's what I expect everyone at home listening to. But I do agree. It's just like you need these massive like liquidity saving or like liquidity injecting events that come from like mortal panic. And it's like, what's the next one going to be? And COVID was kind of the perfect storm for crypto, because it's like everyone's locked inside. We're restructuring the global economy to run on the internet, and everyone's getting free money from the government in the form of like actual stimulus packages. It's not just like more ethereal, there's more credit and debt in the economy, so therefore there's more speculative purchasing power. It's like, no, people got literally given
money in hand
while they're locked indoors with the only thing that they can do is sit on their computer, and they're like, fuck it, I'll gamble some. And you had Elon, who actually had, I would say, social power and status at that point, bull posting the fuck out of Dogecoin. So it was this like perfect little bubble of just speculation. It's almost like engineered. If you could engineer perfect human speculation, that's how you do it. Lock everyone inside, give them money, and get the most prominent people in the world to bull post dog shit. So unless we have something similar, good luck. But that being said, I'm still bullish memes. Like I'm long human degeneracy, and I've said this to like a couple of people of like why I'm bullish on Solana is like I do believe in the worst of humanity in that sense of like sorry Solana, I like Solana for the tech too. I'm also like a Solana maxi for legitimate reasons, but at the same time it's like if you're going to believe in the meme coin casino, then you have to believe in human degeneracy alongside that as well. So not writing off Solana, I don't want to be taken out of context there as the meme coin casino, but that is its primary function at the moment. And so like if you are going to gamble on it, but unfortunately Aiden Ross was right when he came on the Thread Guy, when Thread Guy went on the Aiden Ross stream and said like whoever the fuck that other guy was saying, it's just getting started. And Aiden Ross quipped back with like, oh, but who's bigger than the president of the United States? It's like, ooh, he makes a very good point for meme speculation there of like, the president just launched a coin. How do you one up that? Like, I think that's our kind of like meme top moment for this cycle anyway. So
yeah, makes sense.
I've become a bearish doomer in the last 6 months, Dark, so forgive me.
Yeah, you'll be forgiven, don't worry. What's more shameful than that is that I think I know all of the people that are in that clip that you're talking about and can name them, which is absolutely unacceptable.
We're too terminally online. Yeah, it's Orangey, FaZe Banks, Thread Guy, and Aiden Ross. So
I think Frank was there as well. Wasn't Frank there?
Frank was there.
Yeah. There you go.
He's kind of dropped off recently.
Yeah, I wonder why. Guess there's only so many rugs you can do before your life gets endangered.
True. At that point, you would be worried about your physical safety. I do think about the guys that are docs that just do like shitloads of rugs. I'm like, someone's going to lose enough money, and someone like, you can figure out where people are based on where they're streaming from pretty easily. Like the Eye of Sauron guy that just like finds people's location proves that pretty well. What do you think about Base as an ecosystem? Because my take at the moment is that it's very, very confused as to what it wants to be. Like they tried to position it as like the almost like corporate good for apps and financial services chain, but then also we can be cool degens as well. Haha, just coin it, meta. Yeah, I don't know. My feedback on Base is I don't know what it's trying to be, and I can't, because they have no real like massive uptick of stuff that's being done on there like Solana does. They just don't seem to have found PMF, and I'm not sure that they can at this point, because it's like, oh, it's Coinbase's walled garden, and that's what is going to bring all the normies on chain. But if you look at usage, I struggle to see how it comes out of this unless they can corral everyone from the Coinbase app itself to bring them on chain and like keep them there. But they haven't done well at converting CT if they can't do well at converting CT to use it, how are they going to get everyday people to use it?
I haven't used Base that much other than to like trade a few things because it's cheaper or to check it out initially. My impression of the chain is that it's the equivalent of school teachers trying to be cool. Like, you say Solana is the meme coin chain, Ethereum is sort of your solid, like chugging along. You'd always feel comfortable putting any amount of money on it. Each chain has its vibe, right? That's the vibe I get from Base. And I'm so bearish on that whole business and Base as an ecosystem. And there are parts of me that sees videos of Jesse, and I'm like, I feel bad. I'm like, good for you for trying so hard, dude. But at some point, like, you've got to reflect on how cringe you are. And it's just like, who are you attracting with that? I don't get it. And for me personally, like the past 6 months, Coinbase kept freezing my account. And so I'm just fucking done with Coinbase as a whole. Like, I just don't want to touch anything that they do. Which is why, the introduction of this Coinbase perp style product that they've got coming, I don't really think that that's a massive threat to Hyperliquid, for example, because when Coinbase has rolled products out in the past, they've done a shit job. Coinbase NFT, complete flop. We got 4-hour candles for the first time a month ago. My personal experience of trying to move money through Coinbase is just, okay, we're not going to let you do that. Okay, can I unfuck that? Right, I've unfucked that. Okay, we're not going to let you do the next stage of it. Like, you have to re-KYC, all of this stuff. And so if I look at, you have Coinbase itself, which is quite complicated to navigate. Then you have Coinbase Wallet and you have Base. If I'm a user of Coinbase, no offense, but I think most people are pretty unsophisticated if they're on Coinbase. To be able to make that move across and then understand what they're doing on chain, I think they've just got no chance. So, yeah, I'm very, very like I just don't care at all really about what they're doing. And yeah, good on them for trying, but like you said, it's confused, right? Who are they actually going after? They're going after like cringy quirk people in New York.
It's very
so
like
there's like
quirk,
12 of them.
It's very like Quirk Chungus quote.
Yeah,
Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
How cool! Check this out, guys. And you're like, yeah, it's like the I don't know. It's like youth pastors being like, "Hey guys, God loves us, man." But they're doing it with crypto. They're like, "Hey guys, have you heard of crypto? How cool is that?" And everyone's like,
"Yeah,
get me the fuck out of here. These people are going to like eat me and put me in a soup." Yeah, and don't forget the fact that 1% of user data got leaked.
Oh, dude, yeah, just the whole thing is just a nightmare. Yeah, when you can't give somebody $50 to come on chain, take the hint. Like, you probably need to look at what you're doing at that point. You can't even pay people to use your stuff.
Here's free money. No thanks. Fuck. And they published it. They put it online. Yeah. It's like, dude, don't upload that. You didn't have to upload it. Holy shit. Yeah. No, Coinbase, and again, like from a UX perspective, to me, Coinbase is fine, but like there's a lot of bad reports. Jesse Pollack, if you see that, come on the show. I'll be nice, I swear. Sorry for shitting on everything you've ever done, but yeah, it's it's an
he keeps trying. To his
kudos, respect.
For much respect, like God loves a trier, but yeah.
But just like the ETH itself, it just has these like, if you think about UX and how hard it is to get people to use shit consistently, and how fried attention spans and how clean UX is everywhere else on the internet with things that stick, even just using like the L2 side of things is tough, because it's like you've got to approve the swap for the token, and then you actually have to approve it. There's just these tiny little barriers everywhere that I just think, that's going to stop people. Like people are going to go, fuck it, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. I don't have gas. I think they will do an okay job of addressing it. I think that ETH will get to that point. Yeah, I do think that like we get a chain abstracted kind of future where you don't necessarily have to think too much about what chain you're on. Everyone will get to that ground zero of clean UX, but it's about the attention capture before you get there and how quickly you can do it. One of my other more like kind of just like confluence theses about how future shitcoining plays out as an avid shitcoiner. And this is just basic. I don't pretend to be a gigabrain at all. If anything, I sit firmly somewhere between left curve and mid curve for most of the stuff in the market. Is that we just see a similar kind of event that we saw on Sol, but just on other alt L1s once they develop launch pads, and there's easy mode on there. So whether that's Say or Sui or something like this, once we have primitives there, you will see that kind of liquidity rush to those chains, and you'll see a meme or whatever meta it is season over there, and that'll be easy mode. But I am concerned that, again, it like flicks back to this euthanasia roller coaster idea of like, whatever you saw on Sol, imagine the loop to be smaller on the next alt L1 chain. But I think that you have to also plan for the amount of time that you have between these events too. Like when everyone rushed to copy pump.fun, like Tron, even Sui to probably a greater degree, but like when everyone copied it immediately, it was just these like little loops of like go to Tron, and Memecoin season, they lasted for like a week. And I think something ran to like a couple, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 mil kind of thing. You didn't have $1 billion valuations there. But yeah, how do you think about future kind of like hyper speculation events on other chains? Like how do you see that playing out, if you do at all?
I can probably turn the answer into a bit of a shill for a network that I'm looking forward to, which is MegaETH. For anyone that hasn't come across MegaETH, it's supposed to be like a real-time blockchain. And if you play around on the testnet, you get to see what that means, in that the apps respond in the same way that, in the same way that you would see if you were using the internet just normally. Like you click something, and something happens. Whereas, as you were just saying with like ETH UX, you've got to click something and then enter a value and then click approve and then wait 12 seconds for the block to confirm, and then you go and do the actual thing. And like the whole thing takes a very long time. Whereas MegaETH, you click and it's done. So you enter your value. I want to trade X for Y, click trade, done. So the fact that they've built this infrastructure means that there's a few apps that are taking advantage of it that I think could be quite interesting. Probably the most novel one and the most related to the question that you asked about, sort of meme coins and gambling and speculation, is an app called Euphoria. And if you go and look for it on Twitter, there are some people that have like got their hands on it and started using it. Basically what they have is this interface where you've got like the 1 second chart or 5 second chart, whatever it is, and it's printing across the page, going up and down, like in micro increments. And you can click, the whole page is divided into a grid. You can click on any box on that grid in the future where the chart has not yet gone. And if the chart hits that price, then you win some money. So it's like hyper gambling basically, but with a really addictive interface. Okay. It looks very sleek, very simple to grok. Like I click this square, if line hits square, win money. Now I don't know in the background how, like, who's taking the other side of those things. I guess they must be matching people who click elsewhere. Obviously are going to lose their money, so they somehow match those two to each other. But the fundamentals of MegaETH means that you can do really high frequency stuff like this. That's very responsive. And so there's like Valhalla who are doing perps specifically. There's GTE, which is supposed to be an exchange for every asset on the planet. You've got Noise, where you can trade mindshare, and they're on testnet. I've seen people using it. I haven't got an invite yet, but if Lucas is listening, give me an invite, because I would really like to use that. The idea of trading mindshare is pretty cool. It's sort of like a second derivative of, it's not only price now, but if you're really good at picking up on vibes on Twitter, suddenly you can say, I'm starting to see this thing appear in my algorithm. Maybe if I can long it on Noise, I can make money longing the mind share of this thing rather than just the outright price. So all of these new apps, there's almost going to be like an app meta when this thing launches. If they can onboard normies through these different routes, because again, you don't even necessarily know that you're using crypto. With Noise, it's mind share. With Euphoria, I guess you could plug any chart into that UI and trade it. So it doesn't really matter whether it's crypto or not. So yeah, for me, MegaETH looks really interesting. Having played around with it, you'll immediately see that it's like, yeah, Solana is faster than ETH, and MegaETH is faster than Solana still. And I think it's as close to the limit as you can get. I don't think you can really get any incremental improvements over that. I think it's the last step change in speed that you would ever see. Okay. So yeah, it's interesting from that perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I just like I saw the MegaETH stuff. I saw it in like Echo group chats when they were like doing their raise. Completely just like was not in the market to be doing like Echo deals at the time. I was too busy losing money on AI agents. So yeah. Okay. Cool. I'll go check that out, because like MegaETH is something that I've seen a lot of, and I feel like it'd be one of those really, really like obvious like fades that people see on the timeline, and then like there's enough people playing around on it, but not enough actually capitalizing on going there, parking some money, and like actually trying out the apps. That feels
okay.
Like
so yeah, it hasn't launched yet, but you can try them all out on testnet. But that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that. Actually, for most people, it's a fade at the moment, because, I think it could actually really pop off because people are underestimating it. Yeah, that's
wonderful. Good. When do they launch mainnet?
I don't know. I think people have been saying Q3. I don't know. They haven't obviously officially announced it, so just waiting patiently, really.
Damn, I got my airdrop farming brain just like clicked on there. Then it's all testnet. I was like, damn it. I was literally like, holy shit, I hadn't explored. I just went to like MegaETH, clicked on eco, and was like, oh my god, look at all these things. I'm gonna like chuck like 0.3 across all of them. Let's go. And then I'm like, fuck, testnet. Okay.
Yeah, they said that they're a really smart team. I think everything they've done right so far. They said that they wouldn't. MegaETH themselves won't incentivize testnet usage. Whether the individual apps will or not, I guess, is up to them. But MegaETH themselves are not going to airdrop. They have said they won't airdrop to people who just spam the testnet. They've got the NFT collection, which they sold alongside the Echo drop to sort of bring community on board. Again, really well done. They've managed to get like this diehard community around it without being sickening. Like you see people with the yaps and stuff where it's just retarded and like slop. I think people are genuinely, yeah, genuinely on board. And then the final thing is this like MegaETH collective. What do they call it? Mega Mafia. That's it. So from the start, rather than pitching this as we're a fast chain, here's your DEX, here's your lending facility, here's your perps, blah, blah, blah. They went, no, we're going to incubate people who want to build cool shit. And so they've literally curated this mega mafia, which is these apps that they actually get behind, and they're trying to kingmake on their network. So whereas a lot of other networks are very hands-off and they'll fund a bit of this, a bit of that, whatever, and sort of everybody gets a level playing field. MegaETH went, no, these are the ones that we've looked at. We're inviting the builders to work with us closely in New York. We'll all be together, and we're going to get behind. These are the things that we think are cool, and they literally like promote them shamelessly, which is great because they're saying, here's what we think is going to be successful.
Fantastic. All right, this is the kind of shit that I want to check out. Wonderful. What are the MegaETH NFTs called?
Fluffle.
Fluffle.
Yeah, they're based on rabbits.
Okay.
They're soul bound, so if you haven't got one, you can't just get one.
On an open.
Yeah, you can't buy your way in. So
damn it! Here I was being like, hell yeah, let's go.
So here's the good news: the first 5,000 went in this sale where there was some qualifying criteria, like you had to have an old ETH wallet with lots of transactions, or I can't remember what the other qualifiers were, but if you'd done something that has shown that you're, committed or, what you're talking about, that sort of thing, you were able to mint one. And even then it was sort of randomized because they were oversubscribed quite a bit with how many qualifying wallets there were. But there's a second allocation of 5,000 where if you've done something genuine to sort of progress MegaETH, like knowledge to people about it, a bit like a Yappy type of thing, but obviously not. You can't be a sycophant about it. They're sort of judging it. They will be giving out the next 5,000 to people that have sort of helped grow knowledge of the network. So there is a way in for people that aren't in yet.
All right, cool. Yep, I'm gonna go check this out because it's always nice to have tech to be. I was literally thinking like, Christ, what else is out there at the moment that is like interesting in terms of like fun apps that could show up that actually have like potential to drive interest again. And I think this, like, initially just even looking at website, and the fact that I've just literally I'm also not in like the ETH community as much, probably as I should be, so this is nice. This is refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got high hopes for this one.
Yeah, okay. I'll get some testnet ETH and have a play around. Yeah, because there's like an actual list of apps here on the ecosystem that actually look solid. It's got fun UI too.
Yeah, man. It ticks all the boxes. There's a like third party page built by 0x Ultra, if you follow them. Mm-hmm. They did the Laudio experiment, but before that they sort of put this thing together for MegaETH. So they've got, I think, let me check the website. It's maybe called fluffle.tools or something. Yeah, fluffle.tools. Yeah, and so that gives you an overview of the ecosystem. Like there's links to all the websites, so you can go and check out all of the apps that are being built. That's a really handy resource for anyone that hasn't like had a look at this yet.
Yeah, okay. Fluffle.tools. I'm literally on it now. Huh. And they've got a launchpad called Takeoff.
You go straight for the launchpad, do you? Typical
I'm a
trend
launchpad guy. I was like, ooh, Tokens. But yeah, that's good. That's exactly the answer that I was looking for. Of like, where's a network that I can go feel early on and like actually go use that makes sense, that has good builders. Ta-da. Thank you, Duck. That's great. What else is on your mind, Duck?
Mewing, keeping my jawline strong. I guess I should be pretending on Twitter that I've invested in robotics like everybody else.
Oh yeah, of course. Robotics is the robotics crypto crossover. That's the future, man.
Dude, the amount of tweets that have been like, oh, especially 6 months ago, crypto's over. Luckily, I invested in this robotics thing that I think is going to be really successful. Look at me, aren't I great? Yeah, okay, we'll see.
Yeah, I think it was like Andrew Kang came out talking about robotics, and then everyone was just like, "Whoa, we got to do a robotics startup now! Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the take on the robotic stuff? Because I feel like, yeah, sure, it's an industry that will probably have like a lot of traction in the future, but it just feels like a stretch of like, it feels like almost like a Jason Calacanis, like if you're in crypto, pivot to AI kind of thing. It's like, sure, buddy. Let's all pivot collectively to robotics. That'll be a great idea.
Yeah, that's why I was cynical on it, is because I was always told that if everybody in VC is buying the same thing, then it's not going to be worth anything. So the fact that a load of people came out, and not only was it like, oh, I've just invested in this robotics thing, it was like, I've done it because there's nothing going on in crypto. And the timing just happened to be, like the January, February sort of misery. And then crypto's turned around. So yeah, another classic pivot.
Classic VC pivot. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've done literally zero research into robotics. I'm only just catching up on AI. I think we were talking before the show, like I've now got Claude doing shit. I had Kane from Infinex and Synthetics on the show recently, and he was just talking about how like great Claude is, and I was like, fine, I'll actually use the chatbot and start figuring it out. So yeah, I'm a late entrant to everything outside of crypto. Basically, is how I view it. The tokens keep enough of my attention.
Yeah, I think with AI, you're using it more than I am. I'd be interested to know if you are finding that it still hallucinates or makes stuff up, because that's always been in the back of my mind as like a sticking point. It doesn't matter how good they get. If there's still like 1 or 2% when they're wrong, then you can never fully trust it. But like, have you found yours to be pretty accurate?
I've been giving it very specific tasks. Like I haven't been using it that much for like research or like consolidating information too much. I'd say for that, it's still unreliable. Even when you click on something like even Claude, I'm just a Claude guy for some reason now, not ChatGPT. I can't explain what that was. It was probably literally just Kane shilling it and being like, dude, Claude. I was like, okay.
Right.
I found that for like deep, even when you use like the deep research function, if you actually know something about the subject and you get it to like spit shit out, you're like, oh, buddy, that's off. Like that's not correct. You're hobbling together some stuff. So I'd still say there's a lot of hallucination on like more complex, wide-ranging research tasks where it's like, hey, condense this information or find a report on. Especially if you were to get it, like my major was in philosophy and I still read a lot of it, and I've like tried to do, it is quite useful, I think, for conversing and sharpening up ideas. Like you can ask it, hey, I have this thesis on this, how could it be wrong? Say that you're an interested counterparty that wants to shit on my idea, what would you say? And it's really good for like bulletproofing stuff like that. But if you just want it to do generic broad scope research on shit, it'll find things that you're like, that doesn't belong there. That's not right. These dates are wrong. This is the wrong person. This isn't the right field. What are you doing? But I've been mostly spamming it for admin tasks that I hate doing. So like drafting lengthy-ish emails, doing background on certain stuff where I don't care too much about like the intricate details of the content that it puts out. I just need a broad scope overview of something quickly. And I'm like, Claude, give me 300 words on this thing. I'm like, okay. So yeah, it's mostly just been like used for outreach and automating all the email shit that I don't want to spend 15 minutes writing and thinking of wording. I can be like, hey, write it this way. And he'd be like, okay. And then I'll be like, actually make it less formal. And it does it. And I'm like, great, send.
So that's who I've been speaking to when you've tried to book me for the podcast, is it?
If it's on Telegram, it's me. Nah, but it's more just like not necessarily like cold, it's like outreach emails where like I'll be like, hey buddy, do this. And I'll polish it up and like have a look over to make sure it isn't doing something dumb. But yeah, for little back end shit that you just don't want to do, fantastic. Great stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's like just having a little bit more manpower as a one-man show. So it's nice. But yeah. So no, late entrant to everything outside of crypto, and yeah, I can't see myself getting into robotics. I think people wildly underestimate the amount of like attention and effort it actually takes to learn a new market and sector and be like an agile player in that. It's like, oh, I'll just buy the startup that's doing well. Sure.
Yeah, precisely.
Dude, where can people, I'm not sure if you're like, what projects you have going on, but dude, pill me on what you're working on right now and tell the good listeners of NGMI where they can find you and what you're up to on socials or just anywhere on the internet.
Yeah, man. At Dark Forest Cap on Twitter. I tweet very infrequently. I'm just prop trading, so just my own capital now these days. I will be in person, probably at Token 2049 in Singapore later this year. So yeah, if anyone wants to meet up, give me a shout. And yeah, if anybody's really interested, there is a group that you are in as well, Tom, that I run on Discord, where I put my thoughts. I share them in there. Group of people, like-minded people that are trying to make it. Yeah, so if anyone's really interested in that, give me a shout and I can add you to the group.
Fuck yeah. I can attest to Dark's Discord. I'm on Discord so infrequently, but when I do go like actually load up Discord for Potato Podcasts, I will go have a read through the Dark Discord. And it's probably one of the rare places where like high quality information comes through in like a chat room now. I'm so used to like Telegram group chat kind of slop that it's refreshing. So, but always a pleasure having you on. We'll have to do it sooner than the 12 months, like just under a year we've let slip by since the last one. But yeah, hopefully in 6 months we can run it back and we'll both be freakishly wealthy from how well we've both done in markets. So.
Yeah, man. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah, Dark. Anytime, man. Cheers.
Cheers.